Hey everyone, happy Monday. I know for me it's a work holiday. I don't know how that would translate to schools, considering the online nature of everything. But hope you guys are having a good day. Hope you guys had a good weekend. Good Valentine's Day to all of you guys that have people that you celebrate Valentine's Day with. Yeah, so let's hop, skip, and jump right into this. So we're in Ezra still. Uh, Last week we basically talked about how the people around Israel were very kind of jealous and not wanting the Israelites to rebuild the temple, so they used kind of a shady means of he said, she said to the current king of Persia, uh, or that one, because that's beside the point. You'll see what I mean by that. But yeah, so then they kind of convinced the current king that, oh, like they actually shouldn't be doing this. Check your records; they are people that do things. And he saw that they are people that do things. Uh, but they kind of just it took a little bit, but eventually they decided that they were called to finish this building. God wanted them to do it, so they were just going to do it regardless of what happened. And they knew that God was going to be with them in it. Uh, so now this the next letter that the people around have sent to the king, uh, because that's just what this is. It's a lot of just pointing fingers and sending letters back and forth. But I digress. So, chapter 5, verses 8 through 17 in the book of Ezra. Be it known to the king that we went to the province of Judah, to the house of the great God. It is being built with huge stones, and timber is laid in the walls. This work goes on diligently and prospers in their hands. Then we asked those elders and spoke to them as, who gave you a decree to build this house and to finish the structure? We also asked them their names for your information, that you might write down the names of their leaders. And this was their reply to us. We are the servants of the God of heaven and earth. We are building the house that was built many years ago, which a great king of Israel built and finished. But because our fathers had angered the God of heaven, he gave them into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, the Chaldean, who destroyed this house and carried away the people to Babylonia. However, in the first year of Cyrus, king of Babylon, Cyrus the king made a decree that this house of God should be rebuilt, and the gold and silver vessels of the house of God, which Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of the temple that was in Jerusalem and brought into the temple of Babylon, these Cyrus the king took out of the temple of Babylon, and they were delivered to one whose name was Sheshbazzar, whom he had made governor, and said to him, take these vessels, go and put them in the temple that is in Jerusalem, and let the house of God be rebuilt on its site. Then this Sheshbazzar came and laid the foundations of the house of God that is in Jerusalem, and from that time until now it has been in building, and is not yet finished. Therefore, if it seems good to the king, let search be made in the royal archives there in Babylon to see whether a decree was issued by Cyrus the king for the rebuilding of this house of God in Jerusalem, and let the king send us his pleasure in this matter. So, one note, it's good that the people who are kind of tattling on Israel have put out the whole message that the Jewish people wanted to say and didn't like perturb it or leave it out. Uh, that's at least a good thing. They could have easily twisted the words and sent a letter, and maybe they did because that would be necessary. But I don't think they did because it's in the Bible. But so kind of what's going on here, they say, "Hey, who said you could do this? We told you you can't do this," and they're like, "Well, for one, God told us to do it, but also the king, the former king, said to do it, and who are we to disobey that?" Little tongue in cheek, I think, given that the people around Israel are trying to kind of turn the king against them. Uh, but now they're kind of like, well, the king told us to do this, so are you saying that like the old king is wrong and the new king? So we'll see what happens obviously next. But I think just an important little takeaway from this is, I guess, kind of similar to last week when they started rebuilding in spite of everything. But when God calls you to do something, for one, do it. But be confident that he's going to protect you and keep you safe. We're starting to see a little bit of the how, I think, in this part, and we'll see more in the next chapter, because this is the end of chapter 5. That when you're going out and doing what God tells you to do, it will be blessed and rewarded, and then through the kind of truth of it all, it's all going to work out. So the people in Israel, the people around Israel who had sent the first letter, kind of did this, hey, check your archives, like kind of these half-truths where they knew that the former king had told them that they can do this. So much so that they were offering to help so that they could take ownership of it. But as soon as they could not do that, they flipped it around and then told this new king, because, I mean, this building process is going to has taken decades, because there's already a new king, so. But so they flipped it around and said, like, hey, check your archives. These people have rebelled before. But that's not the truth of the current situation. The truth is that by God, the king had called them to do this, told them to do this. And now the Israelites are basically standing in that truth, trusting in God. And through that, they can continue building and they'll be safe through it. So, yeah, just the small takeaway. This is mostly just a progression of the story, but to just trust in God and kind of live in the truth of that. I know there's one a story I remember from college that kind of goes with this of when you're doing what God calls you to do, don't slip into like lying to protect yourself or anything like that. Always stand in the truth. There's someone who came to the college I went to, the Christian college I went to, talking about missionary work, mostly in the Middle East, but in a lot of Islamic nations, so nations that are predominantly practicing Islam. Because in a lot of those countries, that is like the national religion, where the U.S. does not have a national religion. Some places different. But there's always these stories of like missionaries going in as Christian missionaries, and he was talking about people he knew that would go in, and when questioned, they'd say, "Oh, we're just visiting. Oh, we're just here for, like with the Red Cross or something, doing humanitarian aid." But they were actually there for evangelizing. And he was saying that more often than not, the people that would come in and just be upfront about evangelizing would be let kind of to do their thing. Like we hear these stories about evangelists like kind of going to jail and hitting these walls of resistance. I mean, it's different in other countries like China and stuff, but specifically in the Islamic countries, we hear the stories of like someone comes in to preach Jesus and Christianity. Sorry, my screen just went black. And like bad things may happen because they're different religions. But the truth of it was that if they came in and were just honest and they weren't trying to lie, they'd be greeted with more openness. I mean, one reason was because the people are not as concerned about someone coming in and telling them a different religion when they already think that they are as devout in their current religion. But they thought that if you were going to come in and lie about that, what else are you lying about? Are you here for like other like further nefarious purposes? But basically, like, it was good to come in and just say that you were evangelizing if you were there to evangelize. All that to say, when God calls you to do something, do it in truth. Don't be ashamed of it. Don't try and hide from other people while you're doing it. Just be upfront and honest. God will work through you, and through the truth, other people will see God. Yeah. Have a good week, guys.